Hey everyone, and welcome to Group Text. My guest today, I don't know how to put this nicely, will not shut the fuck up. And I love her for that. Judy Gold has done it all. She's the best-selling author of Yes, I Can Say That. When they come for the comedians, we are all in trouble. Her third off-Broadway show, which is based on that book and shares its title, debuted to rave reviews this past spring and will tour in 2024. Kill Me Now is not only my personal mantra these days, but also the name of Judy's wonderful, immensely popular, and long-running podcast. She's done comedy specials for HBO, Comedy Central, and Logo, as well as been in the films and on TV shows like Search Party, Sitting on a Hill, and Better Things, just to name a few. As a writer, Judy has won 2 Emmy Awards, well, it's more than anyone in my family's won, for her work on The Rosie O'Donnell Show.
It's a daytime.
My mom has a daytime Emmy.
I know. I did her show.
There you go. Mm-hmm. And you've got 3 comedy albums under your belt, most recently being the Pee in Your Pants funny Kill Me Now.
Yeah.
I'm going to stop here because we got a lot
Who
to talk about.
cares? I don't even give a shit. Yeah.
Yeah, and pretty soon Judy's going to tell me to shut the fuck up. So please welcome to Group Text, the tall, lesbian, Jewish, dear friend of my mother's, Judy Gold.
I can't. That was the best intro I think I've ever had in my entire life.
Isn't it amazing when someone does an intro and they list everything? You're like, wow, I'm not the complete and total failure I know.
I'm like, wow.
I did what?
Yeah. And I'm like, well, I'm old, but I also think that when people bring me on stage, they're like, what do you want me to say? I'm like, I don't know. Just introduce me.
Yeah.
You know?
Or when you do a TV show and they say, what do you want the Chiron to say?
Yeah.
I want to say, like, it should read the truth, like, stressed. You know what I mean?
I love that. Anxious. In a clinical depression.
Exactly. Medication being refilled. Let's hope there's enough left in the bottle to get her to the point that the refill shows up.
Withdrawal. Hungover.
Yeah, exactly. Tired.
Tired's a good one.
But you're you're a parent also, so we'll get to tired. And you're a boy mom, so like me.
2 boys. Let me tell you something. Am I allowed to talk yet? Because I'm so afraid to talk.
No, you can talk whenever you want.
The whole parent thing and being tired, being a comic, all these guys, mostly guys, and I'll include women with that, but it's mostly guys are like, oh, I just got off the road and I'm really tired. And I'm like, fuck you. Get up and get your kid ready to go to fucking school at 6:30 in the morning, make them lunch, pick them up, deal with them, and then go out and do your... I mean, it's that whole definition of tired completely changes when you become a parent.
And how about when you forget something and it's like the end of the world?
Right.
And you're running back and forth to school, or they've forgotten something that they need, and we'll get to being a sports mom in a minute, and coaches said let them pack their own bags, and you're like,
yeah, they need to grow up. Yeah.
No, you still bring them their cleats.
Right. And then it was so annoying when it would be like, hi, mommy. So my book report, I left it. And you're like, I have a fucking meeting. And they pull on your heart and you're like, oh, I don't want to, I'm going to get it really bad. I'm like, all right, fine, fuck. And it's like, I mean, the good thing about it is that it's not all about you, but it's also like, you're fucking annoying.
So,
but I love you.
Your younger son, Ben,
he's 6'8".
And how old is he?
He's 20. He's 21. He'll be 22 in August.
Okay, so he's the same age as Cooper. So I know Trinity. That was one of the schools I looked at. That was one of the schools Cooper looked at. But you're a sports mom like me. Cooper plays lacrosse.
And lacrosse is very hot now.
Yeah. But here's the question. Did you embarrass your child, or were you accused of being embarrassing in the stands?
Oh my G-D. First of all, I'm a lessee. So here's this kid who's playing AAU basketball, and then he goes to a boarding school that is a feeder for basketball for college. And every other kid, the fathers are like they're living vicariously through every call. It's like, what are you talking? Like, and here's Ben with these lesbians in the stands. Like, first of all, my ex knows nothing about basketball. So she's like, energy, let's go. Energy, come on. And then her wife played college basketball. So she just is like, come on, Bucks out. And it's just so annoying. And then Elisa knows a lot, but she knows how to behave. But I am that mama bear, like, because they're so mean in the stands. They talk shit, and I am like, shut up. I've been kicked out for telling the kids to shut up, but they're so awful. And Ben's like, Mommy, stop it. He's done this a lot, from the court.
Yeah.
But I cannot believe I have learned so much watching my kid play sports about the culture of sports. It's ridiculous. It's crazy.
It's crazy because I know, like, first of all, my mom at lacrosse games, when anyone scored, she would clap, and I'd be like, no. That was bad for us. Right. And then she would say, Melissa, you take this so seriously. I'm like, it is. It's their whole life. Yes.
Yeah. But it is, I've been kicked out, and I think wrongly. But
I'm going to defer to your judgment on that because I am constantly told that I can be heard and would get the stop it,
like shut up.
And he accuses me of still at this college level yelling. He's like, I can hear you, and I'm like, dude, I wasn't the one yelling. Or I'll be like, I wasn't there.
Yeah,
so I know who you heard.
Because we watch it on, you can watch it on the live feed.
Stream, of course.
Right. And my brother or my sister or someone in another part of the country will be like, I heard you. And I'm like, oh, shut up.
But I do the same things. It makes me feel...
Because we love them.
Also, as I explained to Cooper the other day, I'm like, something went wrong. I'm like, you don't understand the amount of hours that, like, what I've devoted to this. He goes,
right.
Not as many as me.
Oh, I know.
I was like, he's like, I'm the one out there at practice and running around. I go, yeah, but when you're not on the field, you get a break. I'm still playing. I play a full game.
Right.
Never let down, pacing around the stadium. Oh, yeah.
Driving there, driving back, taking them all out to dinner.
Oh, yeah.
It's really a whole different, and it's so different from, it is different from showbiz.
No, not, but except the fact that I was very prepared when he was playing club sports, having grown up on the road.
Right.
That crappy accommodations.
Yes.
Don't even think twice about it.
Yeah, I know. The hotels. Yep. And the other parents. And then you bond with the parents, and then the kid moves to a new team, and you're like, bye now.
Yeah. Or for us with his club team, I'm still very close with a couple of the parents.
Yeah.
Just like I was the only mom because I was a single parent.
Right.
So I was traveling around with this pack of dads.
Yeah.
So
well, it was. Did you get any action?
No. I was the one that all the mothers would text me for scores during the game
because their husbands were ignoring them.
Yeah. So that was my job. Anyway, let's move on. When I was reading about your son, I'm like, someone who might understand my insanity.
Yeah, it's a lot.
But we're going to talk about the book in a minute, but I want to go back to when you were a kid.
Ugh.
Did you get laughs? And realize the power that came with that, or did you figure it out later? Like, my mom was always funny. My aunt was actually funny. Their dad was funny.
So in my house growing up, it was so sarcastic. Like, no one spoke, we spoke in sarcasm. There was, and they were not physically affectionate, but a clever comment, something that made them laugh, that was better than a hug, really. It was the validation. And in school, I was 6 feet at 13, and
Jesus.
Yeah, it was fucking hell. And I was bullied, and they would just humiliate me. I was humiliated on a daily basis. And in my head, I'm like, you fucking ass. I had some agency. I don't know why. And so my mother told me to shut the fuck up. My mother told me to ignore them. They're jealous. I'm like, Mom, they're not jealous. No one wants to be fucking 6 feet tall at 13, but the boys are jealous, this, whatever. And so I didn't say anything. And then later on in my late 40s, early 50s, one of my therapists said she was wrong and you should have stuck up for yourself using humor. But I think because I was so humiliated, and I think that it was the perfect recipe for being a stand-up, because I wanted to elicit laughter on my own terms. And I was fearless because I had been treated like shit in public for so long that nothing you do to me is going to hurt. I mean, it'll sting, but I can move on from that. And I think that plus the fact I am telling you, your mother was a huge part of my growing up, because, there were these comedians that my parents loved and I loved. And, you don't have that now. We have such a separation between the entertainment our kids like and what we like. And she was such an influence on me, her and Toady Fields, because of the fact that they were fearless and that they said what everyone was thinking. They were, and smart. She was so smart, your mother. So it was, it was that we loved comedy, that we didn't know how to be like loving. So we just made jokes, and the humiliation. And I think that's why I became a comic.
Yeah. I mean, so much, even in real life, people deflect through humor. I watch, I'm in no way have any desire to ever be a stand-up. And everyone says to me all the time, oh, you should do stand-up. I'm like, no, because
right.
I have enough fucking inferiority complex issues. And I'm already putting my therapist's twins through Ivy League schools. So,
oh, nice.
I'm a giver.
Yeah, that's so nice.
I'm a giver, but we all deflect through humor. I find, but you talk about like emotional stuff. I will always deflect through.
Right. It's a coping mechanism.
It's a total coping mechanism.
But on the other hand, it's a weapon. That's the other thing. It is a weapon. And if you don't have that weapon, there's no way for you to compete. And so, I mean, that's why when we think of the person who is being indicted or has been indicted,
it's so hard to keep which ones are
I know, but
in process.
But you look at, he couldn't go to the White House Correspondents' Dinner. Fascists, people who, Mark Twain said, under the assault of laughter, nothing can stand. And that is so true. Hitler, I know,
That's okay.
What podcast is anything without mentioning Hitler? But
very few.
In 1934, he passed the Treachery Act, which made telling or listening to an anti-Nazi joke an act of treason, punishable by imprisonment or death. And the reason he did that is because comics like your mother, like Lenny Bruce, who I know had a huge influence on her, were speaking the truth. They were the ones who were speaking the truth, and it weakened Nazi propaganda, the cabaret people and the comics. So he passed this law that you could not tell or listen to an anti-Nazi joke. But 1 year prior is when they started burning books. So that's why I get so scared. We're burning books in Florida, right? And, this cancel culture, this silencing, I mean, satire and humor is the last bastion of free speech. And it's I think it is a direct descendant of our First Amendment. I mean, it's part of our culture.
Oh, I agree 100%. But, just to roll back a tiny bit, there was so much pushback specifically against women comics at the time that my mom came up. I mean, and she was introduced on the Sullivan Show and on the Carson Show as a girl writer.
Right.
Which I find so fascinating. Did you find were there points where you weren't taken seriously because you were a woman?
Always. But I think because I was gigantic, I took up a lot of space. I mean, that's the thing with men, they take up a lot of space. And I think it was a challenge. First of all, straight. So I wasn't, you know, I wasn't fucking any of the guy comics. They weren't, I mean, of course they would sexually harass me all the time. And I was like, go fuck yourself. And I could get away with this because I was taller than them, you know?
Right.
But yes, it was the amount of times bookers would purposely book a show so that I would fail or they thought I would fail. The comics that would bring me up, and, you know, always our next comic's a woman. I'm
Right.
like, and then I would give it right back. That was our MC. He's got a balls and a penis, and he hasn't done his laundry in 5 months because he's a male. So I gave it back to them, but definitely for sure, I would call clubs. I remember in the 80s, and I'd say, "Hi, I just did Caroline's Comedy Hour, an evening at the Improv, and VH1 some whatever shows were on then." And they would say, yeah, we had a woman here, like a girl. Yeah, here, girl comic here, I don't know, 3 months ago. She didn't do well. So right now, we're not hiring any female comics, but you could check back. And I'm like, and every guy who was on your stage killed. No guy has ever had a bad set.
Apparently.
Yeah. And it was also that, you look at your mother and the women of her era having to do a joke in the beginning of their act just to disarm the audience, for them to say, okay, I know what you think of me. Okay, I got it. Let's just address the elephant in the room. I'm a woman. I should be at home doing laundry. Okay, got that out of the way. Here are my jokes. And I still think that goes on. I still think that when, there are people, they see a woman, they don't want her to succeed. The men are threatened. And, you couldn't look sexy at all.
No.
You could not, because the men would objectify you. The women would be jealous of you. It's just recently that you see these comics like looking sexy on stage.
Oh, yeah. Okay, and even then, you go, wow.
Right.
We're so not attuned to that. And you were talking about free speech and all those kind of things. Yes, I can say that. Your book.
Yeah.
What made you want to write it?
So, okay. First of all, I've been really worried about the situation because I see the change in stand-up, and I see really edgy comics saying to me, do you think I'm going to get in trouble for that? Like, no one ever thought that before social media. Like, you'd go in the club. It was a safe place for you to try out your stuff. I mean, it's the only art form where the audience is the vital part of the creative process. So we need you. And then you turn on us, So I did this piece for Vice TV about these college bookers. Like, think of Cooper and I'll think of Ben and my son Henry booking shows, and telling the comedians what they can and cannot talk about. So they asked me to be the opposing viewpoint, which I was. And an editor came to me and said, would you write a book about cancel culture and free speech from the perspective of a comedian? And I said, absolutely. And of course it came out in July of 2020, which
perfect timing.
Yeah. And no book tour, but I did write the show that, BD Wong directed. And it is now like a live piece of art, which your mother's a big part of that. And but it's like it came out in 2020 and I could add 10 more chapters.
Right. Well, it's an issue that's continuously evolving.
Right.
Or devolving.
Right. And I always think about your mom and how she would have to deal with this shit, because they're relentless.
Well, everyone always asks me, what do you think she would do? I said, well, first of all, I think like Dave Chappelle, I would certainly hope she would get grandfathered in. But it hit me it hit me one night, like exactly what she would have done. And you knew her pacing, all that shit. She would have said, okay, if I was allowed to talk about this,
right.
this is what I tell you, but I'm not allowed to.
Yeah, that's so brilliant. Yep.
If this wasn't such a hot topic,
I would have an opinion, and it would be blank.
Right. Yeah. I'm pretty sure that's
so funny.
That would have been how she would thread the needle, I think.
Yeah,
because
I agree.
But there have been times, I mean, it's just such a frightening time, and I loved interviewing and talking to comedians or comics, whatever the gender neutral of comedians is. Look at me. Whatever the gender neutral is.
The gender neutral, yeah.
It's like, what the?
I hate the word comedian, though. I hate it. I think it's demeaning.
But if you just say comedian.
Yeah, that's fine.
How many people say comedian?
Some guys and journalists will say comedian. And there was this club called Comedy U Grand and it was open in the 80s. And on Thursday nights, they had it was just female comics only on Thursday nights. We would get $5. I'll never forget this. And this is where I met like Joy Behar and Susie Essman and all these people. And it was the only night of the week that we could work together, because if there was a woman on the show, there was one, and that was it. We never worked together. And the way they would advertise in, the Village Voice or the Daily News or the New York Post was Thursday nights, all female comedians, like they were doubling down.
Wow.
And it was like we were this sideshow act. And to this day, 3 women on a show is a special event, and 3 white guys is a comedy show,
Well, it was not so much anymore, because you got to deal with all sorts of stuff. But you write about comics who are from, and I hate, again, this term, marginalized communities.
Right.
People of color, LGBTQ. We've
women,
already talked about women.
Yeah.
What makes those particular perspectives so unique and funny? And I know it's about what you've experienced.
Right.
But I'm always wondering how they don't fall into the trap of cancel culture, because a lot, like even comedians who make fun of themselves and comics who make fun of their own family get in trouble.
Right. I think that the people well, first of all, I believe in intent. So if you take the intent, like what is the comic trying to say? Which I talk about that if you commit murder and you're on trial for homicide, your sentence is determined by your intent. And yet comedians don't get the same consideration. But I think marginalized people, someone who's not othered, people who are othered have such a different perspective and they navigate life such a completely different way that these people who are offended, how can you argue with someone's point of view? This is my living experience.
Right.
So I think that, and I think that's where the Chappelle thing comes in. It's like, Dave, you're comparing the tragedies and the horrors of 2 completely different groups of people, and as if one's worse than the other and one doesn't get enough. And I think that's a weird way. I mean, I think Dave is hilarious, but I also, some of the things, of course, but that's with any controversial comedian. I was like, it's not that funny. That's not true. But I wonder why he focuses so much on this marginalized group. Like he has this little obsession with them. You know what I mean? So I do think marginalized people are the funniest people, because we're treated differently in the world. I mean, there's not a lot of funny white, cis, Anglo-Saxon Protestant men out there.
I'm thinking about late night TV. Other than there.
Yeah, that's right. You're right. And they have writers.
Yes. But it's so interesting because I believe so much in intent.
Yeah.
And
right.
It's so much of it is intent. You write, we're all products of our history, and stereotypes, earned or not, are part of our legacy. We can laugh at them for the spark of truth they contain, and we can and should challenge them when they've been unfairly assigned or used to denigrate. how easy is this though when cancel culture is so rampant?
I know.
And comedians still trying to be funny.
Right. And I think it's about specificity. If I'm talking about, and I got so much pushback, I would talk about my mother and I would like literally verbatim say whatever the hell she said in her voice. And then these Jews on the Upper West Side who, you know, never leave Little Israel. Oh, she's promoting a stereotype. No, I'm not. I'm talking about my mother, and I do it in Alabama. So shut up. I think that whole issue is about the listener. Don't you think so? I mean, because you're allowing yourself to take something, you're offended. Okay, so you're offended. What do you do with that? You're like, I didn't like that joke. And you can move on with your life. Or you could try to destroy that person's life.
Which is unnecessary, because I was just checking my notes. I wanted to come back because you do a very funny Anne Frank joke.
Yes.
Okay, but my mother, I don't know if you know this story, got in trouble.
Yeah.
From the Anti-Defamation League. Yeah. Like for making a joke, the Heidi Klum joke.
Yeah, brilliant. I use that as an example.
Yes.
It's the truth.
That she hasn't seen a German look that hot since they were standing.
Right. Since they were standing in front of it's a brilliant joke. Right. And it's like,
Jews came after her. And she's like, excuse me?
Well, first of all,
my family, she's like, my husband had no family because of the Holocaust.
The other thing is, she's talking about the Holocaust.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? It's like, did Germans put Jews in ovens? Yes. It's all based in fact. And the joke is about the word hot. It's not about the horrors of the Holocaust.
No.
But her mentioning the Holocaust just acknowledges that it happened. And the fact that we can't talk about that. We see what happens when we can't, when people try to silence people. It's dangerous.
It doesn't work.
Yep.
It doesn't work. The other thing that I've been musing on that I think you'd be great to talk about is, okay, I am Gen X. And not only did we not get trigger warnings, but we were expected to, ready for this? Cope.
I'm sorry, what? Cope.
Exactly. I mean, my parents expected me to cope. Nowadays, if you you're a bad parent for teaching that particular life skill. And I personally made sure that Cooper was raised with coping skills. I mean, he's not feral.
Right.
You know, but he's also not a snowflake.
Right.
And how do you walk out on stage and think, I'm going to trigger somebody? And live in this. I mean, if I see one more trigger warning.
Oh, please.
If you don't like it, don't watch. Snoop Dogg was once, and this is a great story, was hired to do some charity event or private concert. And he did the Snoop show with the pole dancing and this. And the people were horribly offended and couldn't believe it. And he said to them, you hire Snoop, you get Snoop.
100%.
I mean, how do you find your way through it that suddenly I just never, like, with triggers, like, oh my God, I'm going to talk about going to the dentist and someone just had bad dental work.
Right. Exactly. That's so true. Like,
and they're going to get upset and be triggered in the audience and be drooling. I mean,
right.
How do you work your way through that? Because you're very much an intellectual on how you perceive comedy.
Right. I know, which is so boring, but
not to me. I find it fascinating.
I love the art of stand-up. And so what I do is if someone's triggered, I call them out. I'm like, what? It is not about you. And I also say in my act, no comedian was thinking about your childhood trauma when they wrote their material. That's it. If you don't like something, you get up and leave. Change the channel. You
don't laugh.
Right. My friend Eddie said, which is so true. he said, going to a comedy club or a comedy show and getting upset that you got offended is like getting on a roller coaster and getting upset that you got scared. You know, it's the primary reason is getting scared. You know, too bad.
Yeah, I mean, we're supposed to laugh.
Right. No one made me laugh harder than your mother.
Oh, well, thank you.
Yes.
I mean, I just think it would be so impossible nowadays as a performer to anticipate what's going to trigger someone.
And if you think like that, you're just cutting yourself off from really good material.
How have you navigated the new world of comedy?
It's so weird because all the rules changed. You know, you do all the work. You're like, okay, I'm ready for my big, and all the rules change. I just keep getting on stage, and I go to the Comedy Cellar because they will not allow phones. The phones are completely locked up. I try to work clubs that are comedian centered instead of, I just want to make money here. Right. And I'm going to let the audience do whatever they want. But also, I'm kind of at the point where if people come to see me, they know what to expect.
Yeah.
You know, but it's really hard because I do find myself going, oh, shit. Maybe I should change it. Maybe I should do it this way. But you don't even know that until you try it out. Right. That's the thing. You know, it's like we're doing a work in progress. Like, you know, Van Gogh never stopped in the middle of a painting and was like, who wants another sunflower, you know, in front of, you know, it doesn't happen.
How did you become disciplined enough to not self-edit?
I don't give a shit anymore. I have nothing to lose. I have been, you know, treated like a piece of garbage and I don't care anymore. I really don't. And it's like you see these new comics and their whole focus is putting content on the internet, creating content. And I'm of the generation of The Notebook and the, you know, writing material. I mean, I tell these young comics, and you know this better than anyone, that when we went on the road, there was no computer, there was no cell phone. I would bring one suitcase that was like a junk drawer. It had books, notebooks, my clarinet. Like the whole purpose of you being there was an hour on stage that night. And if that sucked, then your whole fucking trip sucked. But you couldn't call home because the hotel phone was like hundreds of dollars per call. It's a whole, you know, I think people are now so young people, not our generation. Well, I'm older than you, but you know, younger people are so used to mediocre comedy. I mean, I see so many comedians now who there's no setup and punchline. Or tag there. It's just like, let me tell you a story about, and if I get a laugh, great.
Do you find that comedians are getting too hot too fast?
And that they're not prepared?
And they're not prepared and they don't know the grind of doing it. And also, I think a lot of them, you know, they get hot really fast. They have one special in them. And then they don't realize they have to go and get an hour and a half of new material.
Right. Yeah, because you think about it, they get hot fast, which to us is what, 10 to 15 years.
Yeah.
And so you've worked, you know, say you start when you're 20. So you get your first special when you're 30, but it's even lower than that now.
Yeah.
It's less time than that. And then you're like, I have to write all new material. Well, it took you 10 years to get there. Like, you think you're going to do another special next year? And you know, there's something you get from stage time that you can't get any other way. So you don't even know who you are for so many years.
It's mileage.
Yeah. And I think people fizzle out. They fizzle out. And it was, you know, look at your mother's peers and your mother. These people had careers for 50, 60 years. Not anymore.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah. I'm 40 in. Ugh.
What?
I've been doing this almost 40 years now.
But that's because you started at 10.
Yeah, that's true. I was in college. Whatever.
Yeah, whatever. High school, junior high, elementary school. One of those.
Yes,
One of those educational places.
Yeah.
You talk about your process. How long does it take you to walk away and say a joke is right? Because my mother would, as you knew, constantly wrote, and recorded all of her sets.
I know. And I hate record. And I never did that because I didn't want to listen. So I take notes after my sets. But I think I should listen. But, it's so weird because I'll sit here and write and I'll have like these note cards and I'm like, okay, I want to talk about this. And then I get a punchline and I'm like, oh, that works. And then you want to expand on it. It takes so long. It takes so long, and it's getting it back up there because you could get a laugh on the first try. And then the second time you do it, you don't get a laugh. And you're like, what the fuck happened? But like now I'm working on this new bit about, I started working on this new bit before I went to Israel about, that we have these Jesus commercials now on television. And it started out as, you have one like funny thing to say about it. And then it builds and a lot of and I know your mother did this too. Like you say it and then you keep going. You just keep going. And that's sort of, for me, how things develop in front of an audience. But I'm always writing shit down, like joke about black and blah, blah, blah. And,
And then you're terrified anyone these days is going to find your notes. Because, it used to be that the conservatives used to being the one policing speech, and you have someone who is so far left, like a Lenny Bruce, who is, like you said, speaking truth to power.
Right.
But the paradigm is flipped.
Yeah.
Now it's the uber liberals who say, you can't say that.
Right. And they are, the word, that is complete antithesis of the word liberal.
Yes.
Number one. They are the complete antithesis. And you cannot argue with someone's life experience. Who the fuck are you? Words have different meanings for us than they do for someone who's 20 years old.
Right.
And we have lived through a hell of a lot more shit. So we're allowed to talk about, the AIDS crisis. We can talk about AIDS. I can say you guys, okay? Mm-hmm. I watched my friends die of AIDS, and you guys, I was just in Israel. And I went on an
say it properly, or so all the Jews don't come after you.
Israel. I went to Israel and on an LGBTQ mission with A Wider Bridge, and we were.
That's quite the group.
Yeah, A Wider Bridge. They.
No, I mean LGBTQ Jews in Israel.
Yes.
There was a lot. I'm sure there was a lot of shopping, discussion, waffling.
No, it was all.
No, I'm saying a lot of people going. What do you think? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of eating, yes. And a lot of, we had processing sessions where we had to talk. But it was very enlightening seeing the country through that lens, because we went to all these shelters and we went to LGBTQ centers. They all said guys. When you're in an area where your life is threatened every moment, that's the thing about these lefty lefts. It's such entitlement that you're focusing on this when so many more important things are going. It's intent. It goes right back to intent.
Which I believe in 100%.
And context and nuance.
Context. Yeah. Context and at 100%. Your show, you're taking it back out on the road. I can't wait to see it. How did you, and I watched you and BD Wong on the Tamron Hall show.
Oh, yeah.
So you guys are actually friends.
Forever.
and he comes out of M Butterfly,
Oh my God,
Tonys, and serious actor.
Yes.
And he probably has a process of preparing. You know, how did you guys become friends? It just seems
okay. This is the best. So we both were cast in Margaret Cho's sitcom All American Girl. And I played her friend, and he played her brother. And the way he tells it is, so you know, like when, like the first day of camp or the first day of anything, you kind of you're feeling people out, like who's going to be your good friend, right? It's never the first, but anyway. So he would say the most inappropriate things to me, and because he has this wicked sense of humor, like really evil, like just like us. You know, people don't realize that comics and family of comics, we say things to each other we would never say to civilians. Okay. No. So he said that everything he said, I never flinched. I have never flinched. I've just added on to it. And so we just had this bond. And that was 1994. And we have kept in touch since then. And he's such, you're right. He's such a serious actor. He's so beloved and respected, but there's this other totally immature, you know, he's one of us. He's one of us.
And, but I love that. But don't you also, it always catches me surprised that a lot of comedians are the exact opposite of who they are on stage.
Yeah.
I mean, there's always the level of neuroses and anxious and please laugh because I don't feel good enough and mommy didn't hug me. And there's all that general crazy with writers as well. But don't you always find it odd when you meet a comedian and they're like boring?
Oh my God.
And quiet.
Yes.
And don't say anything funny, or they do the worst. That's funny.
Yeah. It's so, no joy. No joy. It is, or the ones, which is probably the same, that can't take, you know, barbs from their friends, you know, like to realize that if you're, you know, someone says a joke about you or to you, that's like the biggest compliment, you know? It's really, those people usually become writers though. Don't you think? And just sit in the room by themselves.
Because the only people crazier than comedians are writers.
Yeah.
It's like on the food chain,
right?
Writers are just above lawyers.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Just barely.
Right. And they don't interact with people.
Right. Or agents. They really go low.
Yeah, they really.
I know. So I hate to ask this because I know you're going to have 17 answers for me.
All right.
Other than surviving Ben's senior year in college?
Yeah, he's going to be a senior. He's junior now.
Yeah. Isn't it scary how large
and smelly
they become?
It's so disgusting. They're like this is my office. It's usually really nice, but he came home from college and there is a corner right here that you'll never see.
Oh, I just
shut the smell.
I just keep Cooper's door shut. I did go in the other day and there were 2 wet towels, one on a chair and one on his bed. And I'm like,
what is away. With the wet? I am like mold. I have a Peloton. The fucking wet towel on the it's literally feet away. Like, what is with the fucking wet towels?
I don't get it at all.
And the 75 showers a day. Yeah.
Oh,
and not knowing how to load a dishwasher.
Oh, he knows that because of when we were in COVID, we had to divide and conquer.
Oh, nice.
I loaded. He unloaded. He was in charge of garbage, and whoever was standing near the laundry when one of the machines ended had to turn the laundry unless it was our dryer because it wasn't working so well, so you had to run it twice.
Right. Oh yeah. Good. That's good.
I did morning with the dogs. He did evening with the dogs.
But he didn't do the I'll do that. And, can I just do wait a minute. I'll do it in I get that. I'm going to do it, mommy.
Oh yeah. I get that too. But during COVID, it was like we both wanted to come out of it alive and not have one of us put on trial.
Okay, can I tell you one
murder.
story, even though you're going to
Yes.
get mad at me? Okay,
No.
but I think you'll love the story. Okay, so my kids, did Cooper go to summer camp?
No, we're West Coast. We don't do summer camp.
Oh, right. So Jews on the East Coast, they go to. So anyway, Henry, my older son, who, if he could be a bigger, no, they're both slobs. So they're both going away to sleepaway camp. And I had asked Henry to take down the recycling to the basement 100 times. And he's like, I'm going to do it. And it was like so, and I, nudgy. I was nudging. And then I come home and the recycling's in the basement. It's the night before we're leaving for camp. And I'm like, oh, thank you, Henry. And all his stuff is packed. Everything's gone. And he goes to camp. Him and Ben go to sleepaway camp. And then we pick them up 7 weeks later. And we're undoing the luggage and, having to do laundry. And I open the bottom drawer of his dresser to put some clothes in, and there's the recycling. I mean, how fucking lazy.
That's
7
amazing.
weeks sitting in his fucking drawer.
That's a teenage. That's
Right.
a teenager. Before I let you go, I just to expand on this. I have a friend who packed her son up to go to camp, sent him off, came home, and she was unpacking, and the top was a mess. And as she was getting lower and lower in the duffel, things looked really tidy. And she realized he had only used the stuff on the top.
No way. Oh my God.
Isn't that genius?
That's pretty smart.
Yeah. She's like, I noticed the bottom one just not even been touched.
Wow.
And she's like, did you just wear the same t-shirt all summer? He's like, yeah, pretty much.
Wow, lucky her.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
what are you doing next before you go out on tour in 2024?
Thank you for asking. I'm doing stand-up. Should I give when is this airing?
No, just go to, was it judygold.com?
judygold.com or JEWDYGOLD on Twitter and Instagram. But I'm working I do a residency in Provincetown every summer. I've been doing that since 1992, and that's the last time I saw your mom.
My mother got there early because of you.
Yes.
She has never forgave you for that.
Sorry.
You told her she had to leave with extra time because of the
know, but
traffic, and she got there like 2 hours early.
I know, but we got to hang out.
So it was all a big ruse.
No, it's really bad traffic, whatever. So I work in Provincetown. I'm going to the Montreal Comedy Festival, and just follow me on everything and read my book and whatever.
Listen to your podcast. Well,
Yes.
I can't wait till you come out here with the One Woman Show
Oh, thank you.
in LA.
You're coming opening.
Of course.
Okay, good.
Of course. And I'll laugh at everything.
Okay, thank you.
Judy, thank you so much.
Oh my God, my pleasure.